Hey guys, Rich Hottinger here with Coldwell Banker Residential Real Estate, and as promised, I'm going to give you 3 tips to making a strong offer on your next home or property that you're looking to buy. So when drawing up a purchase contract, it's really important to make the offer as strong as possible to increase your chances of getting the property. And I laid out 3 points here that we're going to go over, and let's get into the content. Number 1, as obvious as it may sound, we're going to talk about price. A lot of people, when making an offer on a home, they kind of got a number in their head that they think it is worth, but they don't do a lot of due diligence, and they end up coming in way too low usually, and right off the bat, the seller is on the defensive kind of, or his feelings get hurt. There's a lot of emotion that goes into some of these things. So before jumping in and just making the offer, do some due diligence, and this is where you can lean on your realtor. Ask him to pull some of the comparable homes, and when you're looking at the comparables, you really want to keep 2 things in mind. That's time and the geographical location of the comp. So when I say time, I mean within the last 3 to 6 months, you want to see the solds. If you're looking at a unique property, you may need to go back 12 months. And then geographically, you want homes as close to the home that you're buying as possible. On the same street would be really good, but that's not always available, so as close as possible is what you're looking for. And the initial step of this is to really get a landscape or see where the ballpark is that you need to be for that area as far as pricing. And the baseline would be taking all the dollar per square foot of the solds and getting an average of that, and then applying that to the square footage of the home that you're looking at. Now this will give you a baseline number. This is probably not the number that you're going to buy the house at, probably not the number you're going to offer at, but again, it's just to give you an idea. You're going to probably have to make some adjustments to the number, and the reason for that is some of the comps may have things that the house you're looking at does not, or the house you're looking at has some of the stuff that the comps don't have, so you're going to have to adjust up or down. And some of the stuff I'm talking about is like sometimes there's a new roof put on, there's a new kitchen, things like that, new screen enclosure, one has a pool, one doesn't. I mean, these are the types of things you got to look at, add in, new docks, a new boat lift, something like that would be a reason to adjust it up or down. So again, do some due diligence, have your realtor pull some numbers for you in a close proximity, and do the adjustments, and then you should be able to formulate some kind of an offer. And if the seller is realistic at all, they would be probably more inclined to work with you, since you're in the realm of what's going on. Again, coming in just too low right off the bat could turn the seller off immediately and get them on the defensive and make it very difficult for you to get a property that you really wanted. Moving on to point number 2 is contingencies. And what is a contingency? So that's any future event that needs to be cleared up before you can move to closing. So what does that mean? So essentially, it's more hurdles between the seller and his end goal of closing on the home and getting his money and moving on to the next phase of his life. So, the sellers really like the path of least resistance. So you really want to try to minimize the amount of hurdles that there is to go over to get to the end goal. And just on a side note, another reason why you want to keep the amount of contingencies to a minimum is if you're going after some well-priced homes like bank-owned, short sales, REOs, things like that, you're going to run into multiple offer situations quite frequently, because when those properties come up, the sharks smell blood in the water, so to speak, and there's a lot of people chomping at the bit to get those. So in those situations, you really got to make your offer very strong. In my experience in doing this, usually in a multiple offer situation on a property like that, the offers that win out are cash deals, close very quickly, very short or no inspection period, things like that. And the banks will even take less than what they're asking sometimes if there is very few contingencies and a streamlined path to their end goal of dumping the property off. So you got to keep that in mind. So some of the things some examples of contingencies are keeping the inspection period shorter, So a standard inspection period is about 15 days. If you can shorten that down to 10, a seller would like that, because essentially that's less time for you to back out of the deal. It's a little bit less beneficial for you, but within 10 days you still have plenty of time to get an inspector there, check out the house, see if anything's majorly wrong with it, and see if you're going to be getting out of the contract with getting your money back. So 10 days, I mean, that's a little more enticing. 15 is a standard. If you can go even shorter, you think you can get an inspector over there, even quicker, then that's fine. But around 10 days is probably about right, just to make a little more incentive. Financing, that's a very common one. I mean, the inspection and the financing are the two common contingencies that you will have in a contract. And sometimes financing, you just really can't get around that. You don't have the cash to buy it. Now, a lot of people have, $300,000, $400,000 laying around. They have to do financing, which is fine. We do financing deals all the time. It's just some people go into the deal and they don't have a pre-qualification or a pre-approval letter, so then that's more time that you're going to have to wait to get that. That should always be part of the offer when you submit it. It gives the seller a little bit of peace of mind that, okay, well, they went through the initial process of getting the loan. They are pre-approved. Most likely this is going to work out, and we can work with that. And then some of the other ones are current home must sell first. Some people make an offer on a house and they have their current home listed on the market, but they need to sell that house first. I really don't recommend doing this. This really weakens the offer tremendously. It could take any amount of time for that house to sell. Even if it's priced well, you never know. And then you're tying up the house on the seller and slowing them up, and they want to sell the house, they want to get their money, and they want to move on to the next phase of their life, and you could be hindering them from that. On that note, sellers can still show the property when it's in a contingent state, but the showings go way down. I mean, me personally, as a realtor, I don't show homes that are contingent a whole lot unless my buyer really just loves the home. And you don't show them because usually it's a waste of time, because those deals, they do get done. They take a little longer, but they do get done. So not a lot of times, you're going to get a lot of agents to show the house. So a seller doesn't want to sit, off the market for 3, 4, 5, and 6 weeks to wait for you to get your ducks in a row with financing and things like that. I've had people make sight unseen offers. So the offer is contingent upon a viewing. So they'll put an offer in, and then they'll say in 2 weeks I'm going to come look at the house. If I like it, we're good to go. If not, we ain't going to do it. Another really bad idea, very weak offer. Really weakens the offer. So I don't recommend doing something like that. Another one, subject to partner's approval. This one I hold near and dear to my heart here, because I had a deal where a gentleman came down, walked into the office, went out, looked at a property. He falls in love with an oceanfront condo. His wife isn't with him, and he makes an offer, but he puts a contingency in the contract, subject to my wife's approval and a touring of the property. So the time goes by, 2 weeks, whatever it was, 3 weeks. She comes down, walks in, just doesn't like the place at all. We were in there just a few minutes, they walked out. The deal falls flat on its face. So here I strung along a seller because of this type of contingency, and it's just never a good idea to do things like this. I would urge you to have your ducks in a row, be ready to deal, and then make the offer on the property. You're going to save yourself a lot of frustration and the seller a lot of frustration, and you won't waste anyone's time during the process. Now, if it's a property that you just love and you just have to have, you can give it a shot. I'm not going to say no, but I'm trying to give you ways to really bolstering your offer to protect it against multiple offer situations and just having a fair negotiation with the seller. So these are just a few examples of some of the contingencies. You could think of anything really as a contingency and put it in the contract to give yourself outs. But again, you really want to try to minimize it and keep it as streamlined and simple as possible for smooth negotiating and for you getting to your end goal of getting the property that you want and helping the seller out by moving them to the next phase of their life. And the third tip I want to talk about is the deposit amount. This is another area where a lot of people kind of mess up, and really the big thing is they make too small of a deposit in relation to the price of the home. So you get someone that comes in and makes a $2,500 deposit on a $500,000 home. That does not tell the seller that you're real serious. So the bigger the deposit is, the more serious you appear. It's the more money you're putting at risk. But I'm not going to tell you to go, put a huge deposit down right away. My suggestion would be is do 2 deposits. You do a small one with the contract when you submit it, and then you do a secondary deposit that comes after the inspection period or your due diligence is done. This way you know that there's nothing really wrong with the house, or there's nothing out of reason here that the seller's not going to help fix, or just anything that's going to make you not want the house and back out of the contract. You get all that stuff cleared up. You only got $2,500 or $5,000 on the line. And then you put the secondary deposit for a day or 2 after the inspection period is over. So you get all that sorted out. And then at that point, you're really locked into the contract, and the seller feels much, much better that you put the additional money down. It shows you more serious. Now, when determining how much to put down as far as the deposit, as we spoke about, you could put the $2,500 or the $5,000 binder down initially, but then you want to put the secondary deposit to make your first deposit and your second deposit total up to minimum 5% of the purchase price, but recommended 10 to 20% of the purchase price would really be a real solid aspect of the offer that the seller would like, and show you're sincerely interested in doing this deal. So again, 5% minimum, 20% or more max, or somewhere in that sweet spot. The more you put down, the more serious you're going to look. So with that, I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions or you'd like to leave any comments, you can go over to our Facebook page, or you can send me a message at 386-237-0097. And that's it for now, guys.